So there are two kinds of opposition that are emerging to the CAA. One that is othering the Pakistani, which is what Arvind Kejriwal just did, and one that is saying that India's Muslims, in the end, are going to have to, in some ways, be at the receiving end of an essentially discriminatory law. Let's get the ball rolling. I'll start with you, Tehseen. You've been arguing that it isn't just Muslims, it's Hindus who might be at the receiving end. Let me ask you why.
And thank you, Barkha, for having me on the show. And at the onset, I want to make this clear. I've challenged CA in the Honorable Supreme Court. I believe this law is anti-constitution and is anti-Hindus, not really anti-Muslim. So first of all, I was stunned to hear the Chief Minister of Delhi speak because he's completely wrong on facts. CA will not allow a crore and a half people to migrate because there is a cutoff date of 31st December 2014, which is essentially what I'm challenging. What is 31st December 2014? What is the basis of 31st December 2014? It's an arbitrary date. Laws can't be made on arbitrary dates. There has to be a reasoning behind it. For example, the Assam Accord had a cutoff date of 71. That was the India-Pakistan war, etc. There has to be a reason for a law. Laws can't be based on reasons. Number two, why I believe this law is anti-constitution, anti-Hindu. Let's assume there's a persecuted Hindu, right, Rohingya Myanmar, from Myanmar, who's moved into India. CA does not give him citizenship immediately at an expedited pace. But a persecuted Hindu coming in from Afghanistan gets it. So that is anti-Hindu. If you want to rehabilitate Hindus, why not Hindus who are persecuted in Myanmar? Tamilian Hindus who are persecuted. Why not them? So again, that is vague. Third, what is the basis of the three countries chosen? Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Afghanistan, except for politics. If it is historical part of India, then why not Myanmar? And Afghanistan was never a part of India. If it is Islamic countries, then why not Maldives, which is a maritime border of India and is an Islamic country today, where also Hindus are persecuted? Why not Maldives? Again, there is no reasoning behind that. All in all, this law is against the constitution because prima facie it discriminates on religion. Now, let me ask one final question. I am an atheist. There is no country for atheists. What if an atheist is being persecuted in any of our neighboring country? Why not include atheists in it? So this is not about Muslims. This is about arbitrary chosen countries on an arbitrary date, cutoff date, with arbitrary religion. And that discriminates against Hindus who they want to rehabilitate. I firmly believe Hindus must be rehabilitated in India. I firmly believe that, but not in this manner.
Okay, that's a very interesting framework for the conversation, and let me bring Sushant Sareen in. Sushant, we actually know from the NRC that was conducted in Assam that when in 2019 they found nearly 19 lakh, a little over 19 lakh people undocumented, and estimated 5 to 7 lakhs of them were actually found to be Hindus. We know this, right? We know this from the data. Let's build up on Tehseen's argument. The Madras High Court has also commented on why the CAA should not apply to a country like Sri Lanka, where we know the Tamils have been at the receiving end of strife. So Tehseen has actually flipped the opposition argument on its head and said, hang on, this isn't just about it being anti-Muslim. It's also, Tehseen, are you saying it's also anti-Hindu, or are you saying it's primarily anti-Hindu? Tehseen, just before I get
It's anti-constitution. It's anti-constitution, and Hindus will be the greatest victims.
All right. So, Sushant, I hand it over to you.
So, Barkha, I don't know how Tehseen has a very perverted sense of logic, and we've always argued about it. And I think he's indulged in that once again. And he tries to flip around an argument to try and, upstage everybody. So good luck with him. He can try it in the Supreme Court, and let's see. He's not won many cases so far. Let's see how this one goes. But look, here is the problem. As far as the CAA is concerned, my problem with the CAA is partly what Tehseen is saying. Persecution did not cease on 31st December 2014, 2004 or 2014. Yeah. It didn't
2014. Cease. That's the cutoff. 2014. Yeah.
It's not as though the Hindus are not being persecuted in Pakistan after that. In fact, in many ways, the persecution against them has increased manifold. And it's also not the case that the persecution against Hindus in Bangladesh, although that is not an officially sanctioned thing, but at least at a societal level, there is undeniably a lot of persecution. In fact, in some ways, the persecution in Bangladesh is even more egregious than what it is in Pakistan, because if you really look at the numbers and the dwindling numbers of the Hindus in Bangladesh, that tells you the condition of minorities out there. So clearly, these are very urgent conditions of what is happening out there. And of course, Afghanistan, because Afghanistan, a huge majority of the Hindus and the Sikhs who are in Afghanistan were people who actually migrated from what was then NWFP and the tribal districts into Afghanistan as a result of the pogroms that were carried out against Hindus and Sikhs in that part of the of then India, and many of them migrated into Afghanistan, where they were relatively secure until the Taliban came in. Although the Taliban are assuring that they will give them protections, but we know how the protections have been given to the Hindus and Sikhs, despite all assurances, even in Pakistan. So it is a very urgent situation, and that is why it was religious minorities. Actually, ideally, they should have just said religious minorities, but they preferred to name each and every one of them. But my problem is that because persecution has not ended on 31st December 2014, so I have a huge problem with this cutoff date. And if you are
So
indeed,
your problem is with the date, not with the restriction to six religious communities.
no, I don't have any problem with the this thing, because a lot of the logic that is being forwarded by a whole lot of people does not take into account the special circumstances which are suffered by these these six in particular, these six communities in particular. And actually, in the case of Pakistan, for example, it's only the Christians, uh, and many of the Christians do get opportunities to go to Europe and other parts of the Western world who are
Okay.
gladly accept them for denominational reasons. Incidentally, only for denominational reasons. I don't know how many Hindus and Sikhs, if they were to apply for asylum in the Western world, would be given it simply because of denominational reasons. So keep that in mind when people start quoting law, constitution. They don't take into account the real life problems and the hypocrisy of many of these Western countries, who themselves make special provisions for fast tracking citizenship for particular communities and for particular regions. They themselves make these laws, but when if we make it, then of course, because
Okay.
we are black, brown people, so there's something seriously wrong with
Okay.
us.
A lot to ask on that, but Vijeta, let me get a quick comment from you on the government's release. Right, we saw that the government issued in the yesterday a very detailed kind of anticipating frequently asked questions, and he went to great lengths to say this is not about Indian citizens, this is not about 18 crore Indian Muslims, this is not about Islam. In fact, Muslims anywhere in the world can still apply for citizenship. The CAA doesn't impact any of that. And then today, when we try to click on that link, that entire press release has been taken down. You were among those who pointed that out. What do you think are the big sort of contradictions that are arising in the government response? Interestingly, Tehseen and Sushant have both argued from the other side, as it were, of the trenches, that this isn't just about it being anti-Muslim. The cutoff date is arbitrary. What about Hindus, says Tehseen. As someone who tracks the Home Ministry, why, first of all, have they taken this very detailed response down from the PIB website?
So, thank you for having me on your show. No explanation was provided by the Home Ministry as to why this positive narrative on CA 2019 has been taken down. But we'll have to go back a little further, a little back in the history. After CA was passed, 83 people were killed in riots and protests across the country. And these protests, they were not only about CAA, they were about CAA's link with NRC NPR. And if you read the Citizenship Act 1955 along with the Citizenship Rules 2003, it clearly says that NPR is the first step towards the creation of NRC. And NPR is to be updated during the first phase of census, which will happen after the general elections are held. So this perceived this linkage. So the Muslims fear that if they are excluded from NRC for want of documents, for want of any sort of paper, then they will have no recourse. They will be disenfranchised. But the Hindus who have been excluded from NRC, they will still have a recourse through CAA, because the cutoff date is 2014. So anybody before that can apply anytime. There is no fixed date. There's no date fixed as to till when you can apply. So it is an open-ended application process. Point number two, this is a very document intensive process. If you go through the citizenship online, that the portal that they have launched, there is a clutch of documents that these people who fled, say, Bangladesh or Pakistan, fearing religious persecution, they have to provide a host of documents, clutch of documents. And when the CA was introduced, government said that this is for undocumented people. Now you are asking the same undocumented people to provide documents, and this is going to create a lot of tension, unnecessary paperwork for people, and this could also lead to a lot of corruption, because the powers have been given to postal officials, census officials, and you never know. And there is a very disturbing clause in the rules that were published on Monday. It says that you have to produce an eligibility certificate. So what is this eligibility certificate? This has to be provided by a locally reputed institution, and this locally reputed institution has not been defined or stated what it will be. And this institution has to provide a certificate that you follow a certain faith of the
And
system.
and in some ways, your argument is that because although both Hindus and Muslims, for example, in Assam, found themselves not on the list, the CAA gives a legal cover to the Hindus, excluded Hindus, to apply, but
Yes.
not to the Muslims. Is that the
Yes.
point you're making, Vijeta?
Yes, and let me add one more thing. They keep talking about NRC in Assam. The final NRC has not been published in Assam yet. The Assam government has gone to Supreme Court questioning the current NRC, and they want a re-verification of 10% of the total applications, especially in border areas. So they're not trusting their own verification process, and now they're asking people to come up with documents, all sorts of documents. I mean, what are they trying to do? And as far as giving succor to the Pakistani Hindu refugees is concerned, there is a process called long-term visas, which was started by the Vajpayee government, and then it continued. Manmohan Singh government, they liberalized it quite a
Right.
bit, and it allows them to get a citizenship. And anywhere in the world, you have to live a certain number of years in a country where you have gone as a refugee to get citizenship. So
So
that's
you're saying, so in a way, you're saying, what was the need for the CAA at all?
yes.
Okay, Mohandas Pai, I saw you shaking your head vociferously while Vijeta Singh was speaking. Go ahead.
Barkha, we need to understand this very carefully. We have the Citizenship Act 55. Citizenship is defined in the Constitution, and that law before the CAA remains as it is. Nothing in the law has been changed for anybody. So any Muslim wandering into India because they're religiously persecuted in, say, Pakistan. I think a lot of Indian Muslims say Muslims are persecuted in Pakistan. We need to believe this Indian Muslim, because standing up for Pakistani Muslims, which is very wrong, can walk in and seek refuge, and after 12 years apply for naturalization. That law still remains, and we have been giving 1,200 citizenship to Muslims every year for the last many years. That's data. What does the CAA do? The CAA fast tracks a certain category of people who came from these three countries. And how much the CAA fast track? 2 years, 2 measly years. Because 2014 December, 2024 in January, they could be maybe 9 to 10 years in India. If they come before, they would have automatically become eligible after 12 years. That is 2 more years. So we're giving them a benefit of 2 measly years. For this, why are people jumping up and down? It doesn't make any sense. And as for this narrative that Muslims will get it, first of all, there is no NRC. We have not seen any NRC draft. If there's an NRC and NRC program for the whole country, we had it in Assam. We don't have it for the rest of the country. People go to the Supreme Court. The Supreme
But
Court
suppose there was an NRC, would you support it?
People.
Suppose there was a
I
national
would,
NRC, would you support it?
I would support an NRC to find out genuine citizens of India, provided those people who do not come into the NRC in the first instance will have recourse to law. There will be a process where somebody independent, the courts will judge. They'll have a recourse to appeal, and the entire process of legal intermediation will be paid by the government. So nobody is deprived of his citizenship except by process of law and after appeal. It's perfectly fine. For example, if I don't qualify because I don't have my birth certificate. I'm a minority, by the way. linguistic minority too. I don't qualify, and I'm not on the NRC. I should have the ability to go to court, and the court should decide, then ability to go in appeal, and the government should pay for my legal fees. That's perfectly fine. Everybody is protected. So what is this unnecessary fear that's being created for a small thing?
Sanjoy Ghosh, what is the unnecessary fear that's being created for a small thing? Take that. Sanjoy?
Hi, am I audible?
Yes,
am
you
I
are.
audible?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes. So, the unnecessary, as the previous spokesperson said, and the Home Minister had said about the chronology. So everyone knows what is following. So this is the installment before the elections, and God forbid if they come back, and which is most likely they will be back after the elections, you will have the NRC coming. So therefore, we are not babes in the wood not to understand what is happening over here. So this, if you see, for example, let's be very clear. Under no country in the world gives citizenship as a matter of right to aliens or foreigners. You just can't come to a country and say, I've stayed illegally for 15 years and make me a citizen, right? Every country has a sovereign right to determine on the basis of its own sovereign application of mind as to whether it will make a foreign person, an alien, a refugee, a citizen or not. So that discretion is there always with the government. The government doesn't have to give a Muslim who's coming from Bangladesh or Afghanistan or Pakistan a citizenship merely because he or she has been here for X number of years. So why is this happening? What is this brouhaha?